All right, you guys, welcome back to the Alpha Platform. This will be another segment of The Economy Doesn't Care. When I make YouTube videos, there are moments when I will go on a walk. And during that walk, I have been noticing an increasingly alarming number of homeless people on the street, specifically people living in their cars. These individuals will park their cars in empty mall parking lots. They'll park their cars in empty gym parking lots, and they'll just, kind of sleep in their vehicles until they wake up, until it gets busy. But I'm gonna play you guys some clips about what's happening with this homelessness epidemic and what I feel like is gonna take place in the future, because I truly feel like the Supreme Court is gonna make it illegal, gonna make it a criminal offense to be homeless and live on the street, specifically live in your car. Check this out.
In some cities with growing numbers of homeless people, the issue goes beyond encampments in public places. They're also coping with more people living in cars and RVs parked on city streets. Montana PBS's Joe Lasar reports on how city leaders in Boseman, Montana, are dealing with the tensions arising from this more visible display of homelessness.
I tell you, man, you gotta have thick skin out here.
Oh, we got the windows broke out. That one up there is just completely gone.
Yeah, that one's had the BB come through there.
Steve and Belinda Ankney have been living in their trailer on the streets of Boseman for the past 3 years.
We take plates around, or if people are having a hard time and they're not eating, they'll stop by and ask if we can help her anyway.
The rising cost of living has only compounded issues they've been facing for years.
I was raised with the drugs. I was raised with the alcohol. That's all I knew.
Both have struggled with addiction. Belinda works full-time at a restaurant, but health issues, made worse by inconsistent access to care, have affected Stephen's ability to work.
One of the biggest misconceptions is that we want to be here, that we're not trying to get out.
Belinda's legal troubles add another barrier to securing housing.
The mental health issues, the drug issues, the in and out of incarceration, not getting the right help, not being on the right meds, just
Urban camping, as it's been named, has increased by 200% in the last 2 years, according to city officials. It's a growing issue that's increasingly dividing Boseman.
If Boseman is too expensive to live in, choose another place to live.
But it feels more like a war zone with all this housing crisis and no solutions to anything.
Boseman doesn't owe anybody anything.
I've never seen it or been in a city where there's so much conflict over how this homelessness thing.
To tackle this growing issue, Boseman recently implemented a new ordinance limiting camping in the same spot to 30 days, with an option for filing for an extension. There are rules about keeping camps clean, and after 3 warnings, $25 civil penalties will be issued. If unsanitary conditions continue, the city can clear a camp 72 hours after giving notice. But some are criticizing city leaders for putting too much of a burden on the unhoused. Others feel they're being too lenient. Mayor Terry Cunningham says the rules about where camping will be allowed will help make the situation more manageable.
You can't be parked in front of a business. You can't be parked in front of a school, childcare facility, residence, etc. So narrowing the areas that it is acceptable to camp in front of is important so we can get some level of predictability and control.
But many camps are already in compliance with those rules. A group of businesses are suing the city, alleging that it is refusing to enforce existing laws within the homeless encampments. Andrew Hinnenkamp runs one of the businesses involved in the lawsuit.
Early on, we had some theft of services on the property. We had a little bit of a harassment interaction with an employee and one of the individuals.
Homelessness has always been on the radar. This, with urban camping, RVs, more cars, this is a recent phenomenon.
Because of the generators, new model cars, and TV antennas, there's a sentiment in Boseman that people are choosing to camp in order to save money on housing. City officials acknowledge that some people are doing that and will be asked to move on. But figuring out who those people are comes with challenges.
One of the difficulties is having the discussion and saying, why are you currently homeless. They are not required to provide us with that information, and often are uncomfortable answering those types of questions.
The population of people experiencing homelessness in Bozeman has increased by 50% since 2020, and the groups providing services to this growing population have struggled to meet the demand.
As a result of COVID, there was this big uptick in demand, and there was this outpouring of support, and now the outpouring of support has dropped off, but the demand has stayed up at this level, and the resources are very insufficient to meet the need.
Heather Grenier, who runs the nonprofit Human Resource Development Council, says her organization's caseload is at capacity, and there are not many alternatives available.
It's remarkably difficult because there's no pathway for us to help them. There's no housing. There's no rental assistance to help them get into a housing unit, even if there were a housing unit. There's no transitional housing.
Usage of HRDC's overnight shelter has nearly doubled since 2019. Some of that need should be eased when their new 24/7 shelter opens, but that's not expected until next year. Grenier believes this newer, more visible form of homelessness has caused a shift in attitudes around Bozeman.
The just general sentiment that everyone deserves a safe, warm place to sleep doesn't really resonate with everyone anymore.
Is it not on? Are we out? Are we out for real?
No.
Oh.
No, well, it's heating up. I don't know.
Okay.
Caught between a lack of services and a frustrated community are people like Stephen and Belinda.
There are good people in Bozeman. It's just the ugly overshadows the good so bad. This is what it's about. We are having these struggles and we are having these problems, but as soon as we get through them, we are going to be okay. We are going to get to the other side.
Yeah. For PBS News Weekend, I'm Joe Lasar in Bozeman, Montana.
Meantime, San Diego's rules for people living in their cars could change.
In fact, this comes after a lawsuit settled this year set new rules for how the city is allowed to enforce ordinances. Our Zara Barker is joining us live now with the latest on the settlement. Zara.
Kathleen and Phil, this has been nearly a 7-year-long legal battle, but the city of San Diego has reached a more than $3 million settlement. Now, we talked to some people impacted by this settlement. Some of them say they're not going to receive $1 of this, but it's still going to impact how they live every single day.
I'm kind of one of those people that always thought there was no reason to be homeless.
But that became reality for Allison Prater.
Come to find out, it can happen to anybody.
Living on a fixed income, she became homeless nearly a year ago.
I moved to different spots on the street. It's a very difficult thing to go through.
She's one of several people hoping to benefit from the class action federal lawsuit against the city, as she's losing the roof over her head once again.
I will be living in a vehicle, and I will be experiencing the new laws that have changed for living in a vehicle.
The new laws are sparked from the lawsuit filed in 2017 on behalf of a group of disabled, unhoused San Diegans living in their vehicles. The complaint says the city's ordinances prohibited people from sleeping in vehicles overnight, despite having no other option. The $3.2 million settlement also sets new rules and changes police enforcement on the vehicle habitation and oversized vehicle ordinance.
They can't just target someone because they appear to be living in their vehicle. They have to have a suspicion of another crime. If it's a suspicion of a parking violation, they have to give them an opportunity to relocate.
Several people facing the difficult situation of living on the road, including Chris Indris, learned during a meeting Wednesday how this settlement could change their rights. He says the city has towed his RV, cars, and 2 trailers over the years, and he hopes this settlement would help.
I've lost $20,000 worth of things towed away from the city, by the city, and not for great reasons, for nothing more than parking citations. I'm not a criminal. I don't do drugs or anything. I'm raising a family.
I, would love to find my final place to live where I can just, live out my senior years with my dogs. That would be happiness for me, yes.
And the final decision on this settlement is expected to be made in the next coming months by October 10th. And once again, this is in federal court. But if it all goes through as it is settled as of now, these ordinances would be in effect for the next 3 years. Reporting live along the Embarcadero, Zara Barker, Fox 5 News.
Zara, thank you.
Welcome back. Sprawling encampments of unhoused people dotting many of the country's biggest cities are ubiquitous reminders of homelessness here in America. But now, a growing number of communities are taking what's being seen as punitive approach to clear them out, making it a crime in some places to sleep outside, even when some say they have nowhere else to go. So is it cruel and unusual punishment? The Supreme Court will tackle that question next week. And Devin Dwyer reports for us from Grants Pass, Oregon, about what's at stake.
On the banks of the Rogue River, tucked away under trees on the side of the road, even in center field of the local Little League ballpark, the homelessness epidemic is inescapable, even in sleepy Grants Pass, Oregon. Population 40,000, roughly 600 call parks like this one home. Brandon, a 38-year-old Grants Pass native, says he has no choice.
So the city came in and said you can't camp right there on those wood chips.
The officer said I was too close to the playground and I was too close to the fence.
Local law requires that he move his camp every 72 hours. The city had tried to ban camping in parks outright, but was blocked by a federal court for now.
If I don't feel like I belong, I'm going to feel like an outsider, and then I'm going to want to continue doing the same thing because there's no reason to thrive for anything different.
There's no place to go.
Helen Cruz knows the indignity firsthand. Over 5 years living in parks before a nearby church took her in, she says she received more than $5,000 in camping-related fines.
I was holding down 2 jobs when I was out here, and still not enough to be able to rent a place. Their terms of low-income housing here is $1,000 a month, and that's not workable either, you know.
So when the police come through and they do a sweep of this area, what do they do? What do they tell you?
If you don't comply, you are trespassed and you could possibly go to jail.
The city of Grants Pass is among a growing number of American communities passing laws to crack down on homeless encampments. A perfect storm of skyrocketing housing prices, sunsetting COVID relief programs, a mental health and drug abuse crisis, and an aging population without retirement savings has led to record numbers of unhoused people nationwide.
For all intents and purposes, a lot of the behavior you see here today is illegal. And then our community will ask, well, what are you doing about it, Chief?
Chief Warren Hensman says his officers are caught in the middle.
We have community members in Grants Pass that are afraid to come to their parks. We've had shootings in our parks. We've had fights in our parks, chronic drug abuse in our parks. So much of our citizenry are not walking through our parks.
In 2013, the city passed an ordinance banning anyone from using a blanket, pillow, or cardboard box for protection from the elements while sleeping in public. Local Representative Dwayne Yunker says it was intended to crack down on unsanitary conditions and crime.
Critics of Grants Pass say the council has tried to criminalize homelessness. Is that what's going on here?
We do have a responsibility to keep people safe. And that's the struggle, is how do we keep everybody safe? Is it safe to have a kid play in the park where there's a tent 20 feet away? I don't know what the people in the tent are doing.
But with no public shelters inside city limits, a group of homeless residents allege the new law was cruel and unusual punishment. They sued in federal court and won.
We're fighting between what the law is telling us and what the people want us to do and trying to make everybody happy. That's a big, huge struggle for us, a city government.
Criminalizing the victims of our failed housing policy is morally wrong, and it's unconstitutional, and that's essentially what the city of Grants Pass has done by making it illegal for someone to exist while being homeless.
I had a beautiful vegetable garden. I love to cook.
Laura, a 55-year-old Grants Pass native and mother of 3, says homelessness hit suddenly after her husband died in 2021 and health problems sent her to the hospital.
Have you been ticketed by the city?
Yeah.
I have over a dozen citations.
And what are the citations for?
Mostly for scattering rubbish, and that means that anything outside of your 8 foot by 8 foot diameter limits is considered rubbish, trash.
Her home is now a tent in this park.
I needed a little bit of color out here.
A single daffodil, one small sign, Laura is clinging to hope.
There's those of us that are struggling and fighting and taking one step out as we're digging out of the hole.
You have nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
But across the river,
You've got 78 beds in this building. It's only half full. Why is that?
Well, there's a lot of reasons. So this is what we call our 30-day dorm.
Brian Boteller says the doors are open at the only private homeless shelter in town, the Grants Pass Gospel Rescue Mission. For over 40 years, it's provided warm beds and meals, but with religious requirements.
How many times a day do they go to chapel?
Twice a day, our guys go to chapel. They go to chapel once in the morning, once in the evening.
The Lord said, learn a lesson from this unjust judge.
Residents must also quit smoking, drinking, and drug use and give up their pets.
The Ninth Circuit said that it's cruel and unusual punishment on the part of Grants Pass to cite and fine some homeless folks for living in the park when there's nowhere else to go.
Well, that's the big question. Is there nowhere else to go? Or is there just nowhere else that they want to go?
Boteller says so long as courts say Grants Pass cannot ban camping in public, more people will choose to stay on the streets.
We've seen a drop in our residency, and we've seen an increase in people in our parks and freeway underpasses and that kind of stuff in places where they ought not be.
Cities from Phoenix to Los Angeles to Seattle have joined Grants Pass in appealing to the U.S. Supreme Court.
These encampments in California are unacceptable.
Elected officials from both parties urging the justices to make it easier for cities to clear tent encampments like these.
It's not acceptable for anyone to call the streets or a park their home, and cities need to have these ordinances so that they can help to incentivize people to accept offers of help. That's what these laws do.
The reality is the only thing that works is more permanent, affordable housing. This case is not going to solve homelessness. If we prevail in this case, our homeless problem is still going to be there. It just means that we can't criminalize people while they're homeless.
For Helen, Cruz, and Brandon, a lot is on the line.
We're just a small little community with a really big homeless problem and no place to put us.
Yeah, a problem Devin points out is all across this country.
All right, so yes, like I talked about before the clips, people are living in their cars, and I feel so bad because when I'm walking around in my neighborhood, I see single people living in their cars, not people with children and families and husbands and wives. Like, it's always single people. And I get on this channel and I warn you guys about what's going to happen to a lot of people who are refusing to couple up, who are refusing to get roommates, refusing to get a spouse, partner, children. It's getting bad out here, and it's only going to get worse. I do not see the government stepping in and making it easy for single people to live. Like, they don't want you being single. The government wants you coupled up. They want you having children to contribute to the workforce, which is why we have tax incentives for such things. So there is a movement going on around the world where people are just deciding not to be in marriages, not to be in relationships, not to have children. And it seems like fine and dandy. It seems fun, liberating. You have a lot of disposable income, but there's a dark side to this. Like, there's going to be a huge number of people who are going to just be destitute in their older age. Check this out. The average rent for all bedrooms in the U.S. is currently $2,100. The average SS benefit is about $1,900. And that's talking about 2024. Me as a millennial, when I get up to retirement age, what is the average rent going to be? What is the average SS payment going to be? It's not going to keep pace. So let's keep going. The average mortgage is $2,502 in Arizona. It's $1,132 in Arkansas. It's $4,536 in California, which is outrageous. It's $3,082 in Colorado. So many people don't have retirement savings, and they're just depending on SS checks. That's not enough to live anywhere in the U.S. because you still have, you know, your food, utilities, daily living expenses. You still have so many other expenses to take care of. So I don't know what people are going to do. You know, if you don't own a home, what are you going to do? Because, you know, me as a landlord, I can easily choose to raise rent $500, you know, per year if I wanted to, because the banks are always charging, not the banks, I would say my homeowner's insurance is always going up, 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 up. So I have no choice but to raise rent. So if you're on a fixed income, what options do you have, you know? It's interesting to me because while this is all happening with homeless people, people living in their cars, $95 billion, roughly $95 billion in aid was just passed for foreign governments and foreign aid. And along with that, we have migrants receiving thousands and thousands of dollars a month. And I wonder why this government does not want to help or assist the American citizen. It doesn't make sense. I feel like I'm missing something. And if you have the answer, please let me know in the comments below. I don't understand why the government is not working for its own people. I understand the government needs to provide foreign assistance to keep like its place as the leader in the global economy, but it just, at what point do we start helping the American citizen? Maybe they don't want to pass, you know, too many aid packages for the average American because of inflation. Because if we give out all this free money like we did during the pandemic, inflation is going to run wild. So I can understand the government not wanting that. On a side note, I spent some time working for a nonprofit, I would say during the pandemic, for about maybe 3 or 4 months. And I learned a lot about homeless people. Not every homeless person is a victim. And I know it sounds bad when I say that, but some people want to be homeless. And they want to be homeless because, they want to live the way that they want to live. They want to live in a way that they feel like they should be living. They want to be free. They don't want to be tied down to rules. They don't want to go to a job, work a W-2 type job, work a 9 to 5, deal with the boss, deal with, you know, the headaches of employment. They don't want to deal with all that. So they just choose to be homeless and they opt out of, you know, societal obligations. So what do we do with these people? You know, I'm not saying every homeless person is like that, but I have opened my eyes to realize that some people just want this lifestyle and there's no helping these people. I don't know, you guys, just let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Do you feel like the Supreme Court is going to rule and make homelessness a crime? I truly feel like they're going to give it up to the states and let the states decide what to do with people living in their vehicles. I feel like eventually these states are not going to allow people to live in their vehicles because it's taking money out of landlords' pockets. It's hurting real estate investors. It's hurting business owners. So I truly feel like these people are going to be out of options. Like, what are they going to do? So let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And, you know, man, please, 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 please get a roommate. Get a roommate, get married, find a good woman, a good man, a good trans person, lesbian, a good gay man, like whatever you're into. Find a good person and couple up and live together and, you know, just survive together, because it's needed at this moment in time for survival. You need it. You cannot live on your own. You cannot afford to be selfish and hyper independent in this day and age. But let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Gotta go. Take care and peace.